Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks podcast. I'm Andrew Rochford, and with me, as always, is Ben Steinberg. Stein, a crazy divisional round weekend in the books. Didn't really get to recap it. We'll try and do a little bit of it this show, but the main focus of the show is going to be our conference championship preview.
Yeah, Roach, everyone was saying that this was the best divisional round we've had in a while. I wouldn't say the best of all time. I feel like there's had to have been some classic matchups, but we definitely got some.
Definitely in recent memory.
Yeah, we definitely got some instant classics, and probably one of the best weekends of football this season, as we had a lot of interesting, just beat down weekends.
I mean, four walk-off field goals, all games going down to the last second. The crazy Bills-Chiefs game just to round out the weekend.
I will say it was much better than the wild card weekend where we had teams that shouldn't even have been there. The Eagles and the Steelers. Notwithstanding.
Yeah, there was a lot more blowouts, so we definitely got treated nicely during the divisional round. Like I said, the main focus of the show will be the conference championship preview, but before we get started with that, let's kind of go with a little bit of news around the league, mainly some coaching, hirings, and stuff like that. The first one, actually, a coach stepping away, and that is going to be Sean Payton from the Saints. Didn't officially retire, said he doesn't like the word retire or retirement, but he's stepping away from the Saints. Obviously, the coach that brought them their one Super Bowl win has been there for the past 15 seasons. So
yeah, really weird use of words, how they said that he is stepping away. Not officially retire is definitely something to keep an eye out on. A lot of people in the media are pointing him to the Cowboys, which is just... I know the media is very Cowboy-centric, so they're probably just trying to get the offensive-minded coach that they think can really, make that team fire compared to what McCarthy does. But honestly, I think it's just time for him to step away, as they said the words, and just, kind of take it easy. I mean, he is leaving what I would call almost a sinking ship.
Yeah, the Saints, once again, after last season, they were negative $90 million in the cap, and they're $70 million in it again this upcoming season. There's quarterback questions with Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston being a free agent, so there's all sorts of questions that really need to be answered with this Saints team. The Saints do own his rights until 2024, so if he does end up deciding to come back and coaching before then, it'd be a John Gruden to the Bucs kind of trade type scenario, where if he wanted to come back and go to a team like Dallas or whatever team it may be, then the Saints would still have the rights to him at the time that he decides to come back.
Yeah, I've heard guys like Dennis Allen is kind of the successor for Sean Payton.
Yeah,
but
he was the interim during the game that he was out with COVID.
As a Falcons fan, though, come on. I mean, we're just excited that the Ding Dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. The guy that just was a thorn in all the Falcons fans' side. A lot of passive aggressive stuff, whether it be pretending to choke and all that. And we just love to beat down on him, and he loved to beat down on us. So we just want to wish him the best, but I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, definitely, especially from that Falcons point of view. But the next coach hiring was one of two hirings from this past week. The Bears hiring the Colts defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus, I know that's a favorite last name for us, as their new head coach. And they also hired a new GM in Ryan Poles. So still looking for an offensive coordinator. You got the defensive-minded Eberflus in there, but are starting to shape form with your new coaching regime in Chicago.
Yeah, and a lot of people were making the joke that you went from Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace to Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, a former player who's also, I think, on the practice squad for the Bears.
Yeah, he was the guy that went undrafted and signed there as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, and you bring in a defensive-minded head coach that the defense for the Colts had been good, but it hadn't been amazing, I would say. I mean, one of the better in the league. For sure, but a lot of people are saying, why not go offensive?
You got a young quarterback.
Yeah, you got the young quarterback that you traded up for. You need to build around him. You need to make this team better. And defensively, they're fine. I think they don't need that much help defensively.
It's definitely been the superior part of their game.
Yeah,
for
and that's
the last 5
for the last
plus
50
seasons.
years, Roach. Honestly, that's the Bears' MO is offense. Defense over offense, and they're finally trying to address with their offense. And hopefully, this isn't the case of one of those situations where new GM, new head coach comes in, and it's like, oh.
This isn't the guy that
this isn't their guy. Like Fields isn't their guy, so like they're gonna have to throw him to the wayside, and they're just gonna be back to square. It's just an endless cycle of them getting a quarterback. The new people don't like it. This guy going away, and then just they're back at square one.
Yeah, remember they do have no first round pick in the upcoming draft because of trading up to get Justin Fields. So
yeah, I have a feeling they'll be picking pretty high in 2023s.
Yeah, you're probably right. But let's move on to the next news, which is not really as much news, but because nothing really happens with it. But there's a report out there saying, news, I guess. Yeah, saying that Dan Quinn will be staying in Dallas for the 2022 the upcoming season. Of course, Dan Quinn was probably the hottest name in the coaching market this offseason. Two of the biggest rumors of him going to were the Bears, and then when we get to the Broncos with both those teams obviously going different routes for finding a head coach, there's a report out there saying that Dan Quinn will be staying in Dallas next season.
Yeah, and I heard an interesting bit on the radio the other day that maybe he wasn't getting the numbers that he wanted, or maybe he wasn't getting the situation, and maybe things were rescinded and he didn't want to go into a case where he has this X amount of interviews and doesn't get a job, because that would just be a terrible stain on a guy who's already looking back to build his reputation as a head coach. Granted, defensively, they had been successful. We saw the development of Parsons and the Dallas defense,
just
which was better.
As a whole,
yeah, which was better.
Season.
It wasn't the top defense. I want people to pump the brakes on that. It was not the top defense. And of course, Trevon Diggs is a good corner, but not the greatest corner in the NBA and in the NFL right now. I'm an NBA.
Great in takeaways, but maybe not as much in some other defensive categories.
Yeah, and Parsons pumped the brakes on the LT comparisons. Let's be honest.
He even said that personally.
Yeah, Quinn's going to come back, and he's also Kellen Moore is going to be back as well. I think Jerry Jones is trying to keep
that's what it's leaning towards.
A tight grip on his guys, and who knows about McCarthy? I'm sure if they
I was going to say, there's a possibility if both of those guys stay that one of them, like if they have another disappointing season or like a one and done in the playoffs, or one of them could end up being the successor.
Moore is literally like Cliff Kingsbury, in terms of played on on a good offense. Was played in the early 2000s for teams in college.
From Boise State.
Yeah, didn't have much NFL success, if any. So he could be that new young offensive mind that every team wants, with the McVays and the Shanahans and the LaFleurs. So also, let's move on to another bit of news. Big Ben finally hanging up the cleats after 18 years in the NFL. 2 Super Bowls, 5th all-time in passing yards. Is he Canton bound, Roach?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. I think a first ballot Hall of Famer, honestly, Stein. The writing was pretty much on the wall. Everyone knew that he was probably going to hang up the cleats at the end of the season. We've already talked about in some of our previous shows how it was nice that the Steelers, even though they really had no business being in the playoffs, they were able to make one last playoff game where Big Ben could play and make one last playoff appearance. But the elbow surgery a couple years ago, like, he really hasn't been the same after that 2019 season. So an overall very successful career for Big Ben, but it was definitely.
And we do have to look at recency bias. We definitely think of Big Ben as this old, fat, lumbering QB that can barely move out of a pocket and will get hit and literally get destroyed. So
early in his career, he was still a pretty big guy, but he could at least have some like deceptive speed and a little bit of agility in the pocket, where he wasn't just a statue.
He owns one of the best all-time Super Bowl passes, if you remember, to Santonio Holmes in the back of the end zone with the toe drag. So that's one of the best throws in Super Bowl history. So that's definitely, and obviously 2 Super Bowls. He has a few other records as well. Maybe
no MVPs, which I was kind of surprised about, but then I was also reading, and kind of the blurb after that was, it's like, that's what happens when you play in a league with Tom Brady, with Peyton Manning, with Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's pretty tough sledding to try and outcompete those guys.
Yeah, and his off the field stuff will always be a stain on his career, but definitely seems that he's really overcome like all that stuff. And if a guy like Mike Vick can like overcome something that's pretty up there in terms of level of egregiousness. Is that a good word? I don't know if that's a word, but I made it. So I do think that a guy like Mike Vick can overcome his demons. Then Big Ben stuff can be buried as well. I mean, in my eyes, he'll still always be not a great guy just for what he did.
Yeah,
a bad guy. But
in terms of on the field stuff, still definitely one of the greatest quarterbacks, I guess you could say, of all time. Definitely, I would say the greatest in Steelers history, even above Terry Bradshaw, especially when you look at his numbers. But obviously, the Steelers going to be looking in a different direction at quarterback next season, whether it be in-house with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, or it'll be out-of-house in terms of the Aaron Rodgers, the Kirk Cousins, the draft.
Maybe even Matt Ryan, I've heard.
They want to take on that money, but Big Ben, a happy retirement, and we'll see how much weight he ends up gaining in his first couple of years of retirement.
Yeah, I doubt it. You think he'd maybe go to the booth or something?
I can't see Big Ben being either A, in the booth, or B, just being like an analyst on like a pregame show.
Yeah, he's going to go to Lake Oconee, where his lake house is, and just enjoy himself. Also, Broncos, we got word that the Broncos hired Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, a very interesting dude. I don't know if you've looked up about him, but he likes to name his plays like after Star Wars characters and stuff like that.
I knew he was with the Jaguars back in the Blake Bortles days when they made it to the AFC title game, like 2015, 2016-ish, or a little bit later than that, I think 2017. But obviously, the offensive coordinator there got a lot of praise, even from Aaron Rodgers as being the offensive coordinator with the Packers. A lot of people are saying, kind of have this conspiracy and this rumor going around saying that Nathaniel Hackett is going to be a big piece to getting Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to all team up over there in Denver.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a for sure thing, obviously, the fact that he goes over there, but it's definitely doesn't go against them going. Like this can only help them.
I mean, if you get any sort of praise from Aaron Rodgers, you gotta obviously be doing something right.
Yeah, for a guy who's been so malcontent, and we'll get into Aaron Rodgers when we get to the Packers game. But Roach, that's pretty much been the news. We have a few coordinators and other GMs. I think the Vikings had a new guy that got hired, and Ben McAdoo to the Carolina Panthers, which is just hilarious.
Apparently, the Bears are looking at Rich Bisaccia for the special teams job of their team. Apparently, not getting. Any
Josh
sort of
McDaniels
looks.
has also been connected to the Raiders as well.
Which they said Bill O'Brien could be a possible replacement for him in New England.
What is going on?
I mean, those are all a bunch of rumors. This is stuff that's actually been going on in terms of signings and stuff. But
the coaching carousel is always fun every year, and we won't really have a full everyone's in place until like June or July when
especially like head coaches. We still got Miami, Jacksonville, a couple other teams.
Byron Leftwich has been connected to Jacksonville, but he's also put a contingent. It's contingent upon the fact that they fire their GM. I don't know if you saw that, Roach, but that's been the scuttle out of that.
Yeah, so we'll see what breaks down with that in the upcoming weeks. But let's
get into current football. This is future football.
The main portion of our show, which is obviously going to be the conference championship preview. We mentioned how great the divisional round was. Hopefully we'll be treated once again with another great week of football. These teams all trying to fight to get into the Super Bowl. Got both games on Sunday, and the first one we'll talk about will be the 3 p.m. game on CBS. It's the AFC Championship, and that is the 4-seeded Cincinnati Bengals going to Arrowhead to face off against the 2nd-seeded Kansas City Chiefs, who are a touchdown favorite, which, Stein, I didn't look up, and I don't even know if it's available to have a stat of like the favorites and stuff and the lines for championship games. So I feel like a touchdown favorite for a championship game, that's got to be one of the bigger lines that you could have in a game where there's just 4 teams left.
Yeah, Rose, this is ridiculous of a mismatch in terms of talent and where the teams like kind of stand. You have
and where the teams have been in just the recent future.
You have the pretty much the Titan, the juggernaut that is the Chiefs, a team that just continues to roll. Just everything is clicking for them. The defense has been playing well, which has been their biggest faux pas. Offense, what else can you say? And then you got them going against the the up-and-comer, the rookie, obviously there's Joe Burrow's not a rookie, but I'm saying like
second
they would be
guy, you got the
they would
rookie
be
Jamar
they would be like the
Chase.
rookie fighter who's like trying to make a name for himself against the Mike Tyson. Like this reminds me of Punch Out Roach a little bit. Like this is like the Bengals are Little Mac. They have a little bit of swagger to them. They're getting there. And then the Chiefs is like Mike Tyson. They're the final boss that they got to beat. Granted, I honestly think whoever wins this game has a good chance at winning the Super Bowl because the Chiefs, obviously, if they win, I think they'll be favored in the Super Bowl no matter who they face in the NFC.
Yeah, the Chiefs are definitely the favorite out of the four teams.
And then if the Bengals win, it's like they just beat the Chiefs. They're hot as hell. I mean, they got to be able to beat whoever else is in the.
They've already done it once this season, Week 17. So right at the very end of the season, when a lot of stuff mattered, the game that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in was when they clinched the division and the AFC North and everything like that. So it's definitely a recent game that they've won and competed and beaten this top dog of a team. So the biggest question now is, can they replicate that performance and be able to do it again after the Chiefs have probably made adjustments against them?
Yeah, Chiefs are definitely going to learn from their mistakes. I mean, and they also got to look at last weekend's performance. I mean, 13 seconds left for Patrick Mahomes. Scoring, being able to, or putting his team in the ability to get those points to tie it up, and then just being able to finish it off. They were dead to rights twice, I want to say, and they came back to life.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we didn't get to recap that game, but just the 25 combined points in the final 2 minutes, the 44 yards in those two plays to set up the game-tying field goal and force overtime, and then just taking that first drive in overtime and going down the field and getting the touchdown to Kelsey, which, of course, brought up a bunch of people talking about the overtime rules and everything, but just a great, resilient effort from the Chiefs to get back in their fourth straight conference championship game, and they have gone to the Super Bowl, obviously, the last 2 years, won it 2 years ago, and then the one loss being 3 years back when they lost to Tom Brady and the Patriots with those same overtime rules.
And also on a controversial few calls at the end of that one. But you got to look at this Chiefs offense, Roach, clicking on all cylinders, 42 points in both playoff games that they have played. Patrick Mahomes, 391 pass yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, and just also pretty good on the ground too. Yeah, been good on the ground. Was really good on the ground in the last game.
Yeah, he's averaging almost 10 yards a carry. He's also got a rushing touchdown in that game against the Bills.
Yeah,
probably the most surprising part, well, two of the most surprising parts of their offense, because Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, those have been the mainstays in their offense for a while. But Jerick McKinnon, who's kind of turned into, was the running back one against the Steelers, and then Clyde came back last week. Darrell Williams is practicing this week, so you might have all three running backs back.
Yeah.
But McKinnon's had 54 or more receiving yards in both of their playoff games, so I think he's pretty much locked in a passing down role in this offense. And then Byron Pringle, 3 touchdowns in the 2 games, has really become a red zone target for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he looked really good in the last game, Roach, and I kind of like the combination that they're doing. We always say it's Travis Mahomes, and we say Travis Mahomes, and we say Hill as like the top 3 guys that'll kill you. But you got to give it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think is a good change of pace back. Jerick McKinnon is the Edwards-Helaire would be the main running back, with McKinnon as the more change of pace.
He got like 10 touches last week, so they were definitely easing him back into work. I would imagine that he's going to get a couple more carries in this ball game. But yeah,
Byron Pringle too. I mean, it's just looked really good.
Yeah, they've changed from that style of offense, and we've talked about before how they've adapted from just being that like run and gun type offense, like we'll just kill you with the home run ball every single time, to really controlling the clock, just taking their time to go down the field, but then also not just zeroing in on Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, being able to have your supporting cast of whatever running back it may be, of Byron Pringle. They use all 3 of their tight ends with Blake Bell and Noah Gray. They've really rounded out their offense as a whole, and that's without even mentioning just the Swiss Army knife of Mecole Hardman.
Yeah, I'm going to say special teams. We forget about their special teams as well. Mecole is their main, kick and punt guy, so he's going to get...
You saw the one time that Tyreek Hill was back there on a punt return versus the Bills, and he almost took it to the house.
Yeah, so you got Mecole and Hill as the returners, and then Harrison Butker, who is one of the top NFL kickers. So that special teams is still going to like put them in situations where they have to win. Now the defense is a little bit has always been their Achilles heel for the past couple of years. And it starts with, kind of their secondary. We saw them get burned really early in the season. A lot of the guys were getting burned. Also in this game, a little injury to report that Tyrann Mathieu in that secondary had a concussion suffered from the last game.
On the first drive of the game, he was out of there against the Bills, but he did practice on Thursday. He's still in the concussion protocol, so I would imagine with being out there in practice on Thursday, Andy Reid said he had a good practice that he'll end up getting cleared from the concussion protocol either today when we're filming on Friday, there hasn't been an injury report out yet, or tomorrow on Saturday before the game on Sunday. But I would expect Tyrann Mathieu to be out there, and that's going to be a big help for them because when you look at the last game against the Bengals, Joe Burrow just went absolutely ballistic passing the ball, and it was Jamar Chase's career game and one of the best games from a wide receiver in NFL history.
Yeah, they're going to need all their guys going. So let's flip over to those Bengals, Roach, and I'm going to go ahead and just say that I'm a little bit weary of the Bengals. And I know a lot of people, they're obviously get underdogs by 7 points, but the fact of the matter is you got to look at the path they've taken to get here. It's not exactly the toughest path to get to an AFC Championship game. And you had to beat the lowly Raiders, who barely made it, and then you got to beat the Titans, who have been arguably the worst one seed we've seen in the past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at the Bengals, Stein, really the biggest problem for them during this playoffs right now is just been settling for field goals and not getting touchdowns.
Yeah.
Evan McPherson, obviously a great kicker and everything, have been getting a lot of praise.
Has done well, for them, definitely.
But he's 4 for 4 on field goals in each of their playoff games, so they've had 8 field goals in those 2 playoff games so far. A team like the Chiefs that's putting up 42 points a ball game in the 2 games, you can't settle for field goals like that. Remember, Joe Burrow was lighting the world on fire in his last 2 starts before the playoffs started. One of them against the Chiefs, and then the other one we had that 525 pass yards. In the playoffs for Joe Burrow, he's only got 2 touchdowns and 1 interception after having 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 2 regular season games. So you can't settle for field goals against this team. You gotta, when you get into the red zone, when you get onto their side of the field, you got to be able to get touchdowns.
And don't get me wrong, Joe is that dude. I love Joe Burrow. I loved him since he played on LSU. Just been a complete animal and just such a great guy too. But the problem is, despite Joe, he's had his hiccups, don't get me wrong, but despite Joe, this team is just definitely has arrived a little too early, I would say, to where they need to be. I still think they have a lot of weaknesses.
I mean, once again, this was a team that won 4 games last season. This is their first conference championship game since 1988. This is definitely the team that it is the most surprising that is in here in this situation and had the least success
the Bengals have been a joke team for the past 3 or 4 years. In terms of they were always near the top of the draft. And obviously they have their dividends paying off now with guys like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. But the problem is they still have a lot of weaknesses, and they still I don't think they're going to have what it takes to take down the Titan that is the Chiefs. I give them a few more years, but just overall, Roach, I don't think they have enough. I like what they're doing, but they just can't get past it.
Yeah, their defense, which forced just 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions against the Derek Carrs and Ryan Tannehills of the world, is definitely going to have a much different challenge.
And not to mention in the Titans game, Joe Burrow being sacked 9 times.
Yeah,
does not help.
Yeah, being sacked 9 times and being able to overcome that.
I think there was a statistic saying that the first team to sack the opposing quarterback 9 times and still lose were the Titans. You know?
And this was Joe Burrow, who was sacked more than 50 times during the regular season. I think when you add it all up, it's been 62 times he's been sacked. So.
I think he's the top guy or one of the top guys to be sacked. But when he's able to get it off, it has looked good. And that's, of course, mainly a part to his awesome receiving core of Jamar Chase, who's had 109-plus receiving yards in the playoffs. C.J. Uzama with 64-plus yards. He's been a great
he's really
safety
emerged
valve.
As a nice safety valve over the middle of the field.
Joe Mixon, who's also been pretty good with receptions, but definitely running the ball is going to be his strong suit. And then T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd also in the mix. So just awesome weapons that he has. And then the defense, underrated defense. You got guys like Trey Hendrickson, Jesse Bates.
I mean, they're just still very banged up on the defensive front. They had a bunch of guys go down in that first game. Their linebackers have been banged up as well. So it's definitely going to be a big and tough test for the defense against the Chiefs. In terms of injuries, they really don't have much right now. Joe Burrow's been dealing with the knee injury since the Chiefs game, and then T. Higgins came down with a thumb injury from last game. They're both practicing in full, so they're going to be out there and ready to go for this conference championship game. But when you get down to it, Stein, obviously the Chiefs the big favorite and everything, but the Chiefs win this game. I think if Mahomes and company continue to click on offense, putting up those 42 points per game, and then they force Joe to make mistakes. This is a guy, Joe Burrow, once again, very new for him, hasn't done much in the playoffs right now. You might see him try and force some stuff downfield if they get down early, and if you force him to make some mistakes, this Chiefs defense is very good at getting takeaways and being able to take it to the house at any point.
Yeah, Roach, and also the home field advantage for the Chiefs will definitely come into play. Arrowhead will be loud.
With a 3 o'clock game, I was looking at the weather. It's supposed to be in the 40s there. Nothing in terms of rain, wind, or anything like that. So it seems like a pretty warm day in Kansas City for this time of year.
Yeah, and not terrible for them, but it's just going to be a chance if I think the way the Chiefs went is they're going to have to do what the Titans did in terms of getting to Joe, because a guy doesn't get sacked 9 times and win a football game. Like, that happens 1 out of 99 times or 100 times, Roach.
Yeah, I mean, the defense does have to prove, because as good as they were during the middle of the season, we talked about how whenever they faced a good quarterback, they were always getting exposed. And when you see Joe Burrow with the 446 yards, 4 touchdowns against them in Week 17, you're definitely going to need to contain him. Obviously, a great quarterback.
Yeah, this should be a good matchup. I definitely would say the over is going to hit in this one. For the Bengals are going to have to play a perfect football game, Roach.
I mean, you saw the Bills played a perfect football game and still ended up losing.
Yeah, they're going to have to play better than perfect against this Chiefs team, Roach. They're going to have to try to pass the ball around, I would say, try to get everyone kind of involved. And I think they're going to have one of those defining shots to Jamar Chase or a guy like Higgins in the end zone, where just try to, because we've seen those Chiefs secondary get burnt. Mm-hmm. I think Chase is good for at least one of those maybe in this game, and if they can hit that perfectly, then they're gonna get that's gonna be hard to battle back from at the Chiefs.
And then also, if you're Joe, if you see the Chiefs making the adjustments, if you're Jamar Chase, who had 11 for 266 and 3 touchdowns against them last time, you might see them try to focus in on him more, maybe double teams and bracket coverage and everything.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to use your other great options with, like you mentioned, Higgins, Boyd, Uzama, Joe Mixon out of the backfield. Like, you've got a bunch of great guys, so don't try and force the ball to Jamar Chase if he's getting double and triple teamed. You have so many good weapons on your offense, and the Chiefs defense only has so many guys to go around.
Yeah, Roach, give me an official prediction, and I'll let you know what I got.
Yeah, I still have the Chiefs in this one. They've shown that they're the big dog, being in their 4th straight AFC championship game. And like you mentioned last week, when you pick the Chiefs to win over the Bills, it's like you may as well keep picking them until they prove you wrong. And I think they, obviously with last week's game, haven't proven anything to show why they shouldn't be here and be battling for another Super Bowl. So I've got the Chiefs in this one. I think it'll probably be, I'd say like 30, 35, 23, 35, 24, something like that.
I personally, I'm picking the Chiefs as well. I want the Bengals to win, and I think it would be an amazing story, and I think the city of Cincinnati would explode if they won. We were having a funny conversation at work earlier today. We said that if the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl, then every single person in Cincinnati is going to give their life savings to go to this game, because this team means a lot to the city. But unfortunately, Jackson Mahomes' brother is gonna win the game, Roach, and we're gonna get more.
You gotta phrase it like that.
We're gonna get more of the Brittany and Jackson TikToks and her spraying champagne and just getting annoying people on Twitter. And I hate to say it, because everyone wants the Chiefs to be good guys, but these guys are kind of making it hard to like the team,
turning them into a villain.
Yeah, but I'm picking the Chiefs as well, and I'm gonna take I'll take a 31 to 20, 25, 28, around there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't hate any of these four teams that are still in it. Between the 49ers and Rams, which is the game that we'll talk about now, and then the Chiefs and Bengals, I have nothing against really any of these teams. Like, I really like a lot of pieces and a lot of guys on these teams. So in terms of who I actually want to win, like, I honestly would be fine with any of these teams winning.
Yeah, I mean, most of the boogeymen have been knocked out of all the boogeymen have been pretty much knocked out of the playoffs.
The Bucks and the Packers.
Brady goes down.
Week.
Packers go down. You have the Cowboys, the Steelers. So a lot of people don't like the Steelers. Eagles are another. People don't like them. So all those teams have been knocked out. So it's kind of anybody's game. And the funny thing is, 3 of the teams in the playoffs and still alive have all had a Super Bowl win. The only team without one is the Bengals, who have been 0-2. And I'm pretty sure, at least one of them, maybe both of them, to the 49ers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that would be an interesting rematch if you have those teams, especially when you talk about how the Bengals and the 49ers, their records last season.
Yeah, let me fact check that real quick.
Yeah, I'll intro us
you go
into the next
one.
game, which, like we talked about, the NFC Championship game. It's going to be 6:30 on Fox. The 6th-seeded San Francisco 49ers and the 4th-seeded Los Angeles Rams. The Rams at home are a 3.5-point favorite, trying to be the second team and the consecutive team to win a Super Bowl at their home stadium.
Yeah, after 53 years of that never happening, it finally happens in back-to-back, or it could happen in back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah, to have the
and let's be honest, this San Francisco team travels well. We saw them fill up the Cowboy Stadium, and then I'm pretty sure they are very present in Lambeau. So we could see potentially that could be basically almost a home game for them. Yeah. I've heard reports in this LA game that they're trying to make sure they're trying to buy up all the tickets, even secondary tickets for LA residents, and not San Fran. But I'm sure there's a huge population of.
I saw something where they're trying to get Rams fans to not sell their tickets to San Francisco fans. But the biggest stat that probably everyone is hearing this week going into this game is that the 49ers have had the Rams number, winning 6 straight games versus them. Obviously, that's including the 2 matchups this season.
It is the Bengals. Both Super Bowl matchups have been against the Bengals, and they're the 49ers for the Bengals, and they're 0-2 in those.
Wow. So I would imagine they would be happy with the Super Bowl nonetheless, but to get it against a team that they haven't been able to get over the hump against would probably mean even more to them. But in both these matchups this season, the 49ers have been victorious 31-10 back in Week 10, and then 27-24 in overtime Week 18, which allowed the 49ers to get into the playoffs. If they didn't win that game, then it would have been the Saints in the playoffs over the 49ers.
Yeah, so we were watching that towards the end.
It was a 17-point comeback for the 49ers to force overtime, and then they end up winning, get the field goal, and then Matthew Stafford throws a long interception for the ball game. But the key in this one is just like I said, the Rams getting the monkey off their back of this 49ers team. Stafford has not looked good in either game against them. He had 2 interceptions in both those games. Jimmy G has actually had some of his best performances against the Rams, which, Jimmy G he hasn't really done much in these playoffs. So it's going to be a big test for both teams, obviously playing against 2 NFC, the West Division guys. It should be a good one.
Yeah, definitely. I look at this game as more of a defensive struggle, potentially, because I think the Niners have a good defense and the Rams have a very good defense.
You look at how the Niners have won both their games. I mean, it was 13-10 and 23-17. They've had 2 of the lower scoring games in this postseason.
So bringing back that those 2 Bengals Super Bowls against the 49ers. You know what's funny? Those 2-0, since they're 2-0, but you know who was quarterbacking those 49ers teams? Montana and Young.
I was going to say probably Joe Montana and Steve Young.
Yeah. So, and do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is either of those guys? Even an inkling of them? No, exactly. And that's going to be the issue for the Niners, is the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo has been, like we say every single show, he's good enough to keep his job and to throw over around 50% completions, a touchdown or 2, but he's not bad enough where he's just going to completely stink it up. He's just been so average, and I'm sure everyone's seen the memes. You got Mahomes, Stafford, Burrow, and then Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, you see all the graphics advertising the games this weekend. You always got like the quarterback as the headliner guy, and you'll see even in our thumbnail, I've got all these quarterbacks, and I've got Deebo Samuel instead of Jimmy G.
And I'm sure if we were to rank the quarterbacks in this remaining, we would say Mahomes, Stafford, Burrow, and then Garoppolo. I mean, is that?
Would you take a backup? Would you take Chad Henne over?
No. Jimmy G is better than that.
Brandon Allen. Would you take him? John Wolford. I'm trying to think of the backup quarterback.
And maybe this could be Jimmy G's coming out party. I mean, maybe we could see a guy who single-handedly. Probably not, but he could take his team to the promised land and, get up there with the guys like Young and Montana. I mean, he could really... He's had flashes in his career where he has been good, and that's why he's still playing where he is. I don't think we're going to see a guy like Lance, in these playoffs for them.
We haven't seen him yet. We're probably not going to see him.
No, but I heard again on the radio this morning, they said you don't spend a third overall pick on a guy you're not going to use within the coming years. So maybe this could be Jimmy G's last hurrah, but I mean, despite him, everything has been working for them.
Yeah. So when you look at the offense for the 49ers, we talk about only averaging 18 points per game in the 2 games. Jimmy G's only attempting 22 passes, 152 yards per game average. Doesn't have a touchdown pass yet in these playoffs. Yeah. And then the 2 interceptions. His leading receiver in both those games hasn't topped 66 yards. That was Brandon Ayuk in their opening round game against Dallas. They've really been relying on their run game to try and get leads and then just chew clock. You got Elijah Mitchell, who's got 20 or more touches and 71 or more scrimmage yards in both their games in the playoffs. And then Deebo, who's become the running back / wide receiver, has got 10 carries and 3 receptions in each of the games, and he's got 85 or more scrimmage yards in both those games. So those are 2 guys that they really lean on in the backfield. George Kittle, who finally had a decent game last week, they rely on him blocking and pass catching as well, but the defense is definitely going to be the big relying factor between offense and defense for the 49ers. It's what's gotten them here.
Yes, definitely, Roach. And they've really played well, only 13.5 points per game in these playoffs. Also 10 sacks, really forced a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a great quarterback, to only 225. And I would even consider Dak a good quarterback too, shutting him down with only a touchdown and interception and leading their supposedly amazing offense to, CeeDee Lamb 1 catch and Zeke only 31 rushing yards.
Yeah, being able to sack both those quarterbacks 5 times in the ball game as well. You saw how good the 49ers special teams was last week with blocking the field goal and then getting the blocked punt for a touchdown.
And they've also closed out games really well. They haven't made mistakes towards the end. I mean, Jimmy G did have that. They did have that fumble.
The fumble. They had the interception against Dallas that kind of let them back into the ball game.
Yeah, but they were able to hold on after that and not let go, because Dallas could have easily won that game, but I think
Dallas shot themselves in the foot.
I do think they won despite Dallas's errors. I think, anyways, in that situation. But and we're also forgetting to mention on their offense, they do have George Kittle as well, who is a top tight end, definitely for sure. Even when he's not catching, I think he's a great passing block guy and a run block guy for them. Injuries for the Niners, they're pretty banged up.
Definitely the most banged up team of the 4 remaining. Elijah Mitchell and Jimmy G were both limited in practice this week.
So maybe there could be a Trey Lance sighting.
They should end up playing. Jimmy G's been dealing with that thumb injury for the past couple weeks. He was dealing with a shoulder problem last week, but that's not even being listed on the injury report. So both of them will be out there and playing. The big one is Trent Williams dealing with an ankle injury. Hasn't practiced yet this week. Shanahan's optimistic that he's going to be out there, but if he's not, then that's going to be a huge loss for this offensive front.
Trent Williams, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, also was subbed in some offensive.
I saw him used as like a fullback or almost some tight end.
Subbed in as and some interesting packages against the Packers. Also for them, Jeff Wilson did not practice Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, he's dealing with the ankle sprain.
Deebo is banged up, but not on the injury reports.
Yeah, remember he took a helmet to a knee in one of the last plays against the Packers. He hasn't been on the injury report all week, so he should be out there and good to go. Jeff Wilson has kind of been the second or third running back on this team with Elijah Mitchell, and then JaMychal Hasty has been their main pass-catching back. So even if he's active, he probably won't have much of a role in this ball game.
Let's switch gears to the Rams, Roach, and the Rams. are the best team that money can buy, kind of like their baseball counterpart in LA, the Dodgers. Let's see what happens because they put in
all their chips into the
they've been all in. I'm pretty sure they have little to no draft capital.
They've had a first round draft pick since Jared Goff.
God knows what their cap situation is going to look like because of all of this, but they have the talent, Roach, and they have the ability to win the Super Bowl with their roster, I think. And I think they're one of the scariest teams. Mainly because of that game I watched against the Cardinals. They beat Brady and they beat the Bucks, but the Bucks did let the Bucks come back towards the end.
I was gonna say they played the best 2.5 quarters against the Bucks with having the 27-3 lead in the third quarter.
Yeah,
and all the mentions of you know what, Stein. I won't even bring up some
things.
Sore.
They were letting it go towards the end, but they were able to win it with a kick towards the end.
Yeah,
Greg
game-winning 30-yard field goal after a 44-yard pass from Matt Stafford to Cooper Kupp to set him up in field goal range.
Yeah, and Kupp has just been the offensive MVP, even though guys like Stafford is leading the charge, but I think Kupp is definitely their offensive MVP.
Yeah, you saw him have kind of a down game for him, finished with a 6 for 51 and a touchdown stat line in the game against the Cardinals, but then last week, 9 catches for 183 yards and a touchdown. He had that long catch for 44 yards to set him up in field goal range, and then he had the long 60-plus yard touchdown catch early on in the ball game to set him up with a big lead.
Yeah, and then Odell, has been really good. I think he's been good as a number 2 guy, not exactly the number 1 guy.
Yeah, definitely been much better than he was in Cleveland early on this season. He's had 54 more receiving yards in both their playoff games, but he has struggled against the 49ers in both the games. The first game, it was his first game with the Rams, so maybe cut him a little slack for that, but just 2 receptions for 18 yards in both contests against the 49ers.
Yeah, so if those guys are going to be blanketed, then you got to look at, Tyler Higbee, who's had 46-plus reception yards. Also look for Van Jefferson to be a potential option. But he's actually also on their list of injuries. They have another pretty big list of injury compared to the other teams. Them and the Niners are probably the most banged up. And you look at Andrew Whitworth, the old-timer, 40 years old, was kind of banged up in the game against the Bucks.
Yeah, he didn't end up playing at all last week with the knee injury. He was a full participant in practice on Thursday, so he should be out there and playing. His backup that played for him last week, Joe Noteboom, has been dealing with a chest injury. He hasn't practiced yet this week, so having Whitworth back would definitely be a huge boost rather than having a third-string guy.
Noteboom was good. He played well, so, he'd be a good depth piece that they need to move some stuff around. Van Jefferson and Tyler Rapp, both dealing with some injuries, both limited on Thursday's practice.
Yeah, Rapp's been dealing with a concussion, has missed both their playoff games so far, so he'd be a big help in their secondary if they were able to get him back, and then Van Jefferson just being a deep threat, a guy that can really stretch the field for this offense. But one last thing to talk about for the Rams, their defense has forced 4 turnovers so far in their 2 playoff games, and they've held 2 great quarterbacks in Kyler Murray and, of course, Tom Brady to terrible QBRs, 8.4 QBR for Kyler Murray, Tom Brady just a 14 QBR, so really being able to shut them down. It starts off with their defensive front, and then you get into their secondary with Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Rich, I know you love J-Ram, and we also didn't even mention their running game, which I think is underrated. I like the 1-2 punch of Akers and Michelle. Both run hard. Both have the capability to be a part of this offense, but I don't think this is what the offense will lean on. I think they're definitely a passing offense compared to a running.
Akers had 20-plus carries last week, but did have 2 costly fumbles, so definitely going to need to protect the football. They had 4 fumbles last week. Remember the bad snap that went over the head of Stafford?
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
Cooper Kupp had a fumble as well, so definitely going to need to limit the turnovers this week.
Yeah, so, Roach, let's talk about what each team needs to do to win. I think the Rams are going to win if their defense really shows up. Stafford plays like he has been, doesn't throw an interception that we know he can be able to do,
and like he's had in the games against the 49ers.
It's hard to, what they say in the NFL, it's hard to beat a team twice. The Niners have done it, but it's harder to beat a team 3 times in a row. Yeah. So we'll see if McVay's able to game plan. Also, they're going to have to get after Jimmy G and also kind of keep Elijah Mitchell in the box and make sure Debo doesn't get on the sideline, because when Debo's on the sideline, it's hard to stop him.
I think if the Rams get out to an early lead in this one, then like if they get out to something similar to like a 3-touchdown lead against the 49ers and force them to start passing the ball and like get out of their comfort zone, then I think it's pretty much done. The way the 49ers win this game is if they get up early and then just control the tempo like they've been doing. The defense really shuts down Matthew Stafford like they've done in the 2 games earlier this season.
They get some kind of stop on special teams or turnover on special teams, just some kind of play, on the defensive or special team side of the ball that can really keep the Rams limited. Also, if they can, make Stafford throw an interception or 2, that should really keep them golden.
Yeah, they've got to keep this game low scoring. It's been their whole MO, like this whole playoff run for them. If the Rams get anything more than I'd say 20 points, then it's pretty much done for them.
Yeah. So, Roach, the official prediction, I'll go first this time.
Go on.
I'm going to go and say I'm taking the Rams. We're going to have a Super Bowl rematch of that amazing Monday night game from a few years ago with the Rams.
Just imagine it with Matthew Stafford instead of Jared Goff at quarterback.
Yeah, that's going to look good. They should just go back to the color rush. The yellow and the red, I think that would look like ketchup and mustard. But Rams get that home Super Bowl. The way I see it, though, it's the fact that I just don't want the 49ers Chiefs, because that's already been a Super Bowl. So, like, if the Chiefs are going to win, at least make it be the Rams. But the Rams Bengals could be fun, too. So,
yeah, definitely.
But you go ahead and give your pick.
Yeah, I'm going the same way. I'm going with the Rams. I think, like you said, it's tough to beat a team twice in a season, given it the third matchup against them. Sean McVay, obviously a brilliant head coach. I feel like he'll find a way to make the adjustments that he needs to. I think this game will still stay relatively low scoring, but I don't think the 49ers have enough offense to put up enough points on the board against this Rams defense. I'm thinking kind of like a 24-16. I feel like the 49ers are going to have a very ugly score, but 24-16.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. Maybe even like 13 to like 28 or something like that. Just something kind of ugly-ish. For the score.
Yeah, but anyways, guys, that is our championship preview. We hope you enjoy another great week of football. Hopefully we get treated with another great week of football.
Yeah, sounds like we got to go walk the dogs.
Yeah. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Couch Quarterbacks. Like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. For Andrew Roachford, that's Ben Steinberg, and we will see you guys on the flip side.